All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks again for, just listening to us. I think it's great that we're still doing this.
Yay.
I'm Naomi, and I have...
Serena.
Yay, Serena. We're here at Weird Mythic Podcast.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Today's episode is going to be so creepy and so much fun. I am so excited for this.
I am also excited because I've actually never did any sort of research or knew anything about this topic until Serena brought it up. So Thank you, Serena.
And happy Friday the 13th.
Yes, happy Friday the 13th. I do want to give a couple shout outs. I want to give another shout out to Jim for doing our intro music because it is awesome. We appreciate you, Jim. Thank you. Yay. I also want to give a shout out to my little brother, Hunter. His birthday was on Monday the 9th, and I believe he's 28.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, little brother.
If you even listen.
Right? I do want to say if I sound a little hoarse, guys, it's just allergies. I'm fine. I do not have the COVID, okay?
And the
I'm
fires.
good.
We're in California.
Yes.
There's quite a bit of fires right now.
Mm-hmm. So we also want to send out some good, healthy, and safety vibes to everyone affected with those fires. Because we're just down here in the Sacramento Valley. We just get the smoke. I can't imagine everything that's going on up there. So we definitely send our love out to all of those who are affected by the fires.
Yes. All right. Let's go ahead and get into it today.
Yeah.
Let's go. Okay, so we are talking about black-eyed children.
Ooh.
Or black-eyed kids. BEKs.
BEKs.
Naomi, you want to tell us a little bit about what they are?
Yeah, so obviously they are kids. And it seems to be that these black-eyed children, black-eyed kids are usually within the ages of 6 to 16. The main thing that everyone sees exactly is, part of their name. Their eyes are completely black, and it's almost like some of them are almost like hollowed out, or it's just completely black eyes, no white, no iris, nothing. It's just blacked out eyes.
So creepy.
Yeah, I mean, kids are already creepy in general, so...
Exactly. Exactly.
Like, these kids, are really creeping me out.
Yeah.
Something else that all these black-eyed children have in common is not only their ages and that their eyes are completely blacked out, but sometimes, not all the time, sometimes their clothing is outdated. We also have some reports of that they have talon-like feet.
Like a demon.
Yeah, talon-like feet on children with black eyes. I don't like that.
I don't like any part of it at all. Hey. Sorry, my cat's trying to drink my hot chocolate.
Something else that they seem to have in common is when you come in contact or when they come into contact with you, there's sometimes this really gross smell.
Oh, yeah. It's like a musky, moldy, mildewy kind of smell. Yeah. Or sometimes it could be like rotting flesh or sulfuric, which, ding, 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 we know that's a demon.
Yes. You smell sulfur coming from these children.
Just run.
Just... throw salt at them. Just get out of Dodge.
Punch them and then just
punt them, get them out of the way.
Yeah.
All right. So that's, the main things that all of these sightings have in common are their ages, these creepy blacked out eyes, and the smell.
And then the outdated clothes. Also, outdated haircuts. I've noticed that as well. Yeah. Bowl haircuts. Mm-hmm. Shout out to my brother. Rocked that for a while. So creepy.
Yeah, so did you want me to go ahead and go first, Serena, or do you got a story before we get started?
I'll go ahead and read. Okay, so one of the theories, which we'll get into a little bit later, has to do with sleep paralysis. We're actually going to do an entire episode on that, but I want to read this story that my brother sent me, and it's about, growing up when we lived in our house in Elk Grove when we were children. I'm just going to read his exact words. This is terrifying.
Since you lived in this house with him.
Well, yeah, that's the scary part. And Okay.
Here we go.
All right. Unfortunately, I have some experience with sleep paralysis demons, if that's what you call them. Whatever you decide to call them, they are scary as hell and I don't like them. Growing up, our house always felt haunted. My brother and I always felt we had to run to the bathroom as fast as we could because it felt like someone was watching us. On nights where my brother would be gone at a friend's house and I had to sleep alone in my room, which was rare, I always felt very frightened and had to sleep with the lights on. At least 3 times in my life, during one of those nights, I experienced sleep paralysis and saw a dark figure at the foot of my bed. Ah, so scary. The thing about sleep paralysis is that when you wake up completely petrified and while your eyes are wide open, you can't move them at all. And so all you see is this peripheral of a big dark entity that is just staring at you. I could never move to look directly at it, but I could see it was a human shape, and it was easily the most frightening experience I've ever had in my life. When sleep paralysis occurs, you can't even breathe, and when it's over, the entity just suddenly disappears, and you're left just gasping for air. A lot of the times it would happen, I would just start screaming as loud as I could until someone would come to my room. I recently read an article about how children who experience neglect often have shared experiences with sleep paralysis. One time in college, I brought up these experiences, and my brother was really surprised, because he said that when I would stay the night at my friend's house, he would experience the exact same phenomenon in the exact same way that I did. I don't believe it's a real demon. I believe it isn't because I had actually seen the entity while awake. When I was going through one of the hardest times in my life, I was walking through a hallway and I held up my head, and all of a sudden, there he is. And it felt like a split second, but all of my friends that were in the other room were suddenly surrounding me, saying that I turned completely white and froze, just like sleep paralysis. They said it looked like I saw someone die before my eyes. It was the last time I ever experienced seeing that entity or experienced sleep paralysis. Human imagination can be very powerful, and it can trick you into seeing things that aren't real, or rather aren't real outside my own mind. It felt clear to me that day that's what happened, and I think coming to terms with the fact that it was coming from my own brain is what has kept it from happening again. If sharing this story makes it come back, I am going to blame you.
All right. Well, thanks for writing that in, Scott.
Yeah. And I wanted to mention that, too, because one of the theories is that black-eyed children, people have seen during their sleep paralysis episodes, the black-eyed children standing in the corner of the room just staring at them, or...
With those hollowed-out eyes.
Yeah, like,
oh my gosh.
So scary. Could you imagine?
So, did your brother mention how old he was when he had that experience?
It had to be between the age of, like, 10 to 14.
Okay.
Because that's, around the time that we live. Maybe a little bit younger.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does he still have those experiences?
He said no.
Okay.
Yeah, he said he hasn't, so.
All right.
He's kind of a skeptic. He is, but he likes to listen because it's entertaining.
And he loves his sister.
And he loves me. Yeah.
Well, thanks.
That's terrifying.
Scary ass story, and that's going to be a fun episode once we get to that sleep paralysis.
So that'll be coming soon, guys. If you have any stories, definitely send them to us.
Please send them in, and we would like to hear everybody else's experiences when it comes to sleep paralysis. It'll help us with our research as well.
Definitely. All right, well, let's get back to BEKs. Naomi, you want to share your first story?
So I am going to share a story about the black-eyed children, and this account comes from Texas from 1998. And the witness, his name is Brian Bethel. I actually found an interview with Brian on YouTube, so we'll have to link that to all of our stuff on social media.
Yeah, he's done a lot of interviews, and he was on, Monsters and Mysteries or some
Something
show.
like that, yeah. So in 1998, Brian Bethel was in the parking lot of a movie theater. He was filling out a check. Yes, dude, this could take like 3 minutes sometimes to fill out a check, okay? So he's just doing paperwork in his car, filling out this check, and he hears a knock on his driver's side window right next to him, and he kind of just looks over, and it's these two boys standing next to his window. So Brian rolls down the window, and he says the first thing that happened when he rolled down this window, and it wasn't even all the way down, it's like cracked at this point, is he got this sense of dread and just fear. Just immediately, and he starts to roll down the window a little more, and he asks the kids, what's going on? The first thing that these kids say is, there's no reason to be scared. We just need a ride. We need to go back to our mom's house because we forgot the money to go see the movie. They were going to go see the original Mortal Kombat movie, okay? So Brian's first thought was, why did they have to say don't be scared?
Yeah, if that's the first, as something just falls in the corner of the room. If that's the first thing you're saying, like, maybe I wasn't, but now I am.
Yeah, so Brian notices, not only are they just standing there staring at him, but he then asks them, how far is your home? And they really didn't say how far it was. They just said they needed to go home to get money so they could get back into the theater. And Brian asked them, of course, what movie are you seeing? They said Mortal Kombat. And he's like, well, the movie has already started. You boys won't be able to actually see it because by the time you get back, it'll be over. And as soon as he said that they would miss the movie, I think Brian finally looked at them like right in the face. And he says that's when he noticed that their eyes were completely black. There was no white. There was no color. It was all giant pupil. And this also gave him a sense of an unnerved, unsafe feeling.
Yeah.
So he pretty much refused to take these kids anywhere. Their second, response to this was, "Sir, you don't have to worry about it. We don't have a gun." And so now Brian's like, "I'm not taking you," rolls up the window and gets out of Dodge.
And he
just left the scene.
Yeah.
And he described these two kids as there was two of them, and they were both around 16, maybe 14. Maybe the youngest one was a little younger than 14.
It seems to be that one's always younger and one's a little older.
Exactly. One's the older sibling and the younger sibling. The one that kept talking was the older one, and he had curly hair. And then there was another one that was next to him, and he called him the freckle-faced one. Oh. And he just stared at Brian the whole time. And so, yeah, that's Brian's story. But he's one of the first people to actually write down and put out there that he had this experience. And then so many other people kept coming forward in Texas to say that they had the same experience, not with these same exact kids, but that these kids were walking up to them, asking for help. And then when they were refused, they seemed to be like, "Don't worry."
Or they'll get a little more aggressive.
Or they'll be like, "Just let us in. I just need to get into your car. I just need to come into your home."
Yeah.
So once Brian Bethel put that out there in 1999, a lot more people started coming forward with similar stories.
So we really don't even know what the earliest account of it is, but this seems to be one of the first, for sure.
Definitely. 1999.
Whoa.
Yeah, so having kids knock up on your window being like, "Don't worry, hey, don't have a gun, take me to my mom's house."
That.
Why do you even have to say that?
They say things that don't make sense.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And he also mentioned that even though he could totally understand these kids, he said they had an odd speech pattern.
The way they articulated themselves.
Yeah, and it was very, robotic in the way they said it, too. It wasn't natural. It didn't just flow. It was more like,
"Hey, mister, can you take us back to our house? We need to see the movie." That's so scary. Kids don't talk like that.
No.
Even especially if they're 16, they're going to be like...
Yeah, and...
I don't know.
Yeah, it was very strange. And if you do look up Brian Bethel's interview that we found on YouTube, just listening to him tell the story, you could see that he's really
terrified.
He's scared when he tells the story, and he goes back to the scene where it happened too, and he goes, "No, it's creepy." He still gets that feeling from it. So
it's very unnerving.
Very much so.
All right. Well, I also have a story. I'll go next. So this happened in 2012. So kind of recently, and it was November. So a woman was up late at night watching a movie with her cat when the cat suddenly jumped off of her lap. The woman was confused because that's not what the cat does, right? The cat's chilling with her usually. And she followed the cat into the laundry room, and then the cat was hiding between, the washer and the dryer, just refusing to come out.
Oh, poor kitty.
Suddenly, the woman heard knocking at the door. She thought that it might have been some just, trick-or-treaters that were a month late, so she decides, "I'm going to answer the door." And when she opens the door, she was met by two children, a little boy and a little girl. She said she noticed something strange right off the bat. They were just standing at the door looking into her house. And they didn't look like trick-or-treaters. They weren't wearing costumes. They didn't have, a little bucket or a pillowcase.
Right.
Trick-or-treaters would do. And so the boy then asked the woman if the cat had left the spot.
What?
Yeah. Which then arose concern in the woman. And then the little girl whispered, "We need to get inside."
Why did she have to whisper?
And then the little boy started smiling.
Oh, no.
Terrifying.
No. Yep. I don't like this story.
Immediately, she had an overwhelming feeling of fear and dread, and then she noticed that the children's eyes were completely black. The woman shut her door and called the police. The police found footprints that led to the forest behind the woman's home. And then a couple months later, she found, a makeshift bed in her gardening shed.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I'm moving.
Oh, no. That's not cool.
No.
Did they ever come back?
No. Not that she said.
Dude.
Still.
And that's so strange.
Yeah, and so another thing that it seems to be a common one is that you don't notice right away that their eyes are all black. Mm-hmm. They're either looking down at the ground, or they might have, I don't know, it seems like they have some kind of
have a hood.
Yeah, that, or a hat.
Or a hat. Also, I'm just thinking if I run into a kid or a kid's asking me something, I don't always look at them directly in the face. I'll look at them and acknowledge them, but I can't say that I would immediately notice their eyes
Really?
until I'm actually staring at them having the conversation.
It's weird because you guys are the same height.
Oh, whatever. Just depends on how young this kid is or how old they are. Like 13, yeah, they probably aren't my height.
Yeah, well, that's my first story, and that's terrifying. I don't know which state that was in. I didn't find that information, but...
And that reminds me of a story that I didn't write down. But there's another one of this girl who she gets into her apartment and she hears a knocking.
Is that the one that's on the balcony?
On the balcony.
I read that story.
So we'll say it real fast. So she heard knocking on the balcony. She opens up the blinds and there's these two kids standing on her balcony.
She's on like the third floor.
There's no way to get up. Like
she's on the third floor.
Yeah, you can't just walk onto her balcony. So these kids are saying, we need to come in, we need to come in. And she says, well, my door is stuck, I can't let you in. She didn't want to let these kids in. Yeah. She calls the cops. Cops get there about an hour later. And I think they did find, like, footprints or something on the outside.
They saw the kids running away.
That's what
at
it
the
was.
Bottom, yeah.
But the cops didn't catch them. Nobody caught them, and they never came back.
They started questioning the neighbors because they're like, somebody had to have let them up there or helped them up. But yeah, nobody said anything. Nobody came forward. Either.
No trace afterwards, so.
Oh, grab the salt.
All right, so I'm going to talk about another case. This one is called and I'm sorry if I mispronounced this. It's Cannock case. Cannock.
Cannock Chase in Staffordshire.
Staffordshire, England. So this one, let me just double check one quick thing. Okay, so this came out in a journal. It's actually, well, not a journal, a tabloid. A tabloid called the Daily Star. And if everybody has seen Men in Black, it's the only real newspapers, the only real way to get your information and news. So just keep that in mind. So, in September of 2014, a local woman in Staffordshire in the Cannock area, her and her daughter were out walking around, and they heard a scream, and it sounded like a child was in danger. So this woman, and she grabs her daughter, and they're running to find out where the scream is coming from, and they come across this girl who's completely dressed in white, and she was holding her hands over her face. Not crying, but just holding her hands over her face. So the woman asks if the girl is okay, and as soon as she takes the hands away from her face, the woman notices that her eyes are completely blacked out. There's no color, no white. It's almost solid black orbs over her eyes. So the woman is taken back by this, immediately gets scared, and grabs her daughter and kind of takes a step back. So as she steps back, which I'm like, oh, that poor little girl in white. Like, who knows? She's traumatized now. Someone just, like, looked at her and jumped away. But as soon as she jumped back, looks down at her daughter to make sure she's okay, and she looks back up, the little girl in white was gone. Nowhere in sight. So she's not sure what was going on there. So she tells this tabloid reporter, Lee Brickley, about this. And Lee Brickley, who then wrote down this and put it in the tabloid, the Daily Star, he mentions in the article that his auntie in 1982 had this same encounter. But she was walking down the street in the same exact area, hears a girl crying, thinks she's in danger, finds the girl, asks if she's okay. The little girl had absolutely no eyes. It was completely black. And she turns around and runs from Lee Brickley's auntie and just disappears in front of her. So she physically saw this little girl in white running and disappear in front of her eyes. And yeah, that there's also, I saw some reports that a drone in the Cannock area captured a little girl in white on video. Couldn't find it, but I saw a lot of sources mentioning this. And there was also a medium by the name of Christine Hamlet, who believes that the girl was actually from the Victorian area and could have passed away due to diphtheria. And I guess one of the symptoms of diphtheria, your eyes can become a little sunken in and darker. I couldn't find any real medical things to say that's true, but it was in that report for that tabloid article. So if you do just look up the Cannock case in Staffordshire, England, there's a few different reports of this little girl in white without any eyes.
Yikes.
So, yeah, Staffordshire, England. What the hell's going on there?
There's a bunch of reports in that same area as well. There's like a haunted pub that's there.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff.
So
definitely do some digging there. 'Cause that was fun to look up.
Yeah. So, yeah, another little girl dressed in white, and the fact that they think that she's from the Victorian era and that she's dressed in all white does go along with that. So,
yeah. Woo, scary.
Creepy.
All right, I have another story.
All right.
So one evening, and this is in British Columbia.
Okay.
And this man, he decided he wanted to go see a scary movie at a local movie theater by himself. Who does that?
Well,
Do you do that? Naomi.
I've gone to shows by myself.
But a scary movie? Naomi.
I do.
That's how horror, like, okay. Just text me. I'll go with you next time.
Okay. I was like, yeah, I've done that. I'm not afraid to be alone at a scary movie.
Yeah, no, to me, I'm like, I need somebody there with me. But okay, no judgment here.
Are you sure? Are you sure there's
just
no
a little
judgment?
bit, just a little bit. All right, so later on that night, the man was hanging out in his living room, and I think he was watching TV. He was obviously a little bit on edge from the movie.
Yeah.
And he jumped when he heard a knock at the door. Like, he was
Did it say
freaked
what time
out.
he heard the knock?
Middle of the night. So with each step that the man took toward the front door, he felt a sense of dread just flood down his spine, yet something compelled him to open the door. And that's another common thing in a lot of the stories. It seems like something just comes over you and you just
like
start doing it even though you don't want to.
It's one of those things where it's like, why am I feeling so scared when I have no reason to be scared?
But then you have to fight against your instincts.
Yeah.
Just trust your instincts.
Trust your gut, please.
Yeah. So he opened the door, and on the front porch, standing right there in front of him, was a teenage girl about 6 feet tall. She had beautiful, gorgeous blonde hair, and she just says, "May I enter the premises?"
Oh.
Weird for a teenager to say. Like, that's not the verbiage that you would use, I feel, but...
No.
Hey, that's not how I spoke when I was a teenager. So she looked up from the ground then and revealed solid black eyes. He screamed and he slammed the door.
See, and then I think like the little girl in white, how she just like jumped back, and then this girl's getting screamed at. Like, that was a real kid. They're like feeling bad about
Don't
themselves
show up at
now.
people's houses in the middle of the night and say weird things. Okay?
I agree with that too.
Sorry. So he grabs his gun, right? Because that's what you do. He's in the middle of nowhere too.
Yeah.
Like, he lives in a secluded area. And he sat in his chair with his gun until the next morning.
Oh, dang.
He was freaking ready for some kind of fight. Like, he was not about to let this little girl come into his house. So the next morning, it's, hours and hours have passed. He goes out and he's like, I gotta go check my mail. So he walks out, checks his mail. There's no sign of the black-eyed teenager anywhere. But then the word soon was etched into his front door.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Soon?
Soon.
What does soon mean?
I don't know.
Did anything else happen?
No, not that I found.
I hope that man is okay.
Me too.
Because that's scary. Like, no.
What a bad prank. If that was a prank, just don't do that to people. What if he had a heart attack? Like, I would have a heart attack.
Yeah, and exactly. I don't know. That's creepy.
Creepy, right?
Soon.
Just soon.
Soon.
That could mean anything.
That could
freaking mean anything. Soon you're gonna die. Soon I'm gonna come back.
That's what I was saying. Soon I'm coming in your house.
Yeah, but they need permission to enter, so it's and that's another thing, is like, they cannot come in unless you give them permission, and that's why they get so aggressive.
And that goes back to the whole, they seem very robotic because they have to have permission to come in.
Yeah.
They have to. So, oh my gosh.
Soon.
All right, so I have another story here. This one is taking place in Ohio in July of 2010. The guy who wrote this article, he goes by the name Noetic, Noetic, and this happened to him outside his place of work. And he worked at a data center somewhere in Ohio. There wasn't any specifics about his actual job. It was about 5 a.m., and Noetic goes outside to take a smoke break. As he walks outside, he sees 2 teenage boys across the street. And he said that just noticing these boys made him feel unnerved. Mainly because he noticed them, mainly because as soon as he noticed them, that they started directly staring at him back. Motionless.
Ugh.
Like
they just knew.
Like they just stopped everything they were doing and stared at Noetic from across the street. And it just made him feel very uncomfortable.
Well, see, and it seems like they have some kind of, like, psychic abilities or something, because, like, they knew where the cat was hiding. They knew, and it's not in view of the front door. Mm-hmm. And then they knew...
Like, he was going to take his smoke break at this time outside this data center by himself.
They knew within the first story that he was hesitant, because they're like, oh, we don't have a gun.
Yeah. It's just like, why would you even have to mention that? Anyways, so... Noetic finishes his cigarette, and he goes back inside to his place of work. He sits down at the, it kind of sounded like it was like a little kiosk area, like when you first walk into a building and that's where the security guards are.
Okay, like the front desk.
Yeah, so he goes back to the front desk, and it's been about 10 minutes since he went outside and had his smoke break, and he notices that the intercom was beeping. So he goes over to the intercom, and he sees that it's the two boys that were across the street are now at the entrance trying to get in. So he holds down his side of the button, and he asks what the boys needed. Neither of the boys said anything. They didn't say anything. They're staring at the security camera, and Noetic could feel like they were staring directly at him.
See, they know he's watching.
So he then, asks them again, is there anything you need? Are you guys okay? And all he said was he noticed that the boys were motioning to him to come outside.
Nope.
Just bringing their arms out come outside, come outside. So he goes over to the door, and as soon as he touches the door, he gets a really good look at these boys. And that's when he notices that their eyes were completely blacked out, no color, no white again. So, although he didn't feel like he should open the door, he did go ahead and ask the boys, what is it that you need? And they still didn't say anything. They just kept motioning him to come outside.
Ugh, that's almost scarier than them saying something.
So he then says, hey, if you guys don't leave soon, this is private property, I'm going to have to call the cops. That's when the boys spoke, and they said, that will not be necessary, sir. We simply need to use your phone. Can you let us in? Noetic declined to let them in.
Thank God.
And so he just went back to his chair, and he started to watch them on the security cameras. And he said that they just kept staring at him. And it made him feel even more uncomfortable because they're just staring at the security cameras. He does end up calling the cops, who get there at about 6 a.m., maybe a little around 6:30. And he says that he noticed after he got off the phone call with the cops that they moved to a blind spot from the cameras. Cops didn't find anything there.
Yeah, I read this story too, and he was actually watching the cameras the whole time. So it's almost like they just vanished.
Yeah,
and that's how
gone.
A lot of people say too. It's like you don't see them coming and you don't see them going.
Yeah, and you're gonna sit there. It's 5 a.m. There ain't much going on. He's gonna be watching the security cameras to see what these kids are doing. And then they're just gone.
Whoa.
Yep.
Gosh. Could you imagine if somebody showed up to your place of work, was like, I need to come in and use
then
the
it's
phone.
I tried to see if he could have looked up the security footage afterwards.
To see if they actually were there.
I couldn't find anything to say that he went back to look at security cameras or anything.
What if they just
that.
didn't show up on?
Exactly, and they probably wouldn't have anyways.
Vampires.
See, that's my theory.
That's a theory.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, because they need permission to come in. Mm-hmm. The eyes. Yep. The pale skin.
The pale skin. The fact that they have to have permission to come in
and mostly
is the
at
big
night.
thing.
Yeah, and it's mostly at night.
Yeah, because the one that was during the day was the one in Staffordshire.
And that I think that one's different. I think that's residual haunting or something.
Yeah.
And that's a spirit. Mm-hmm. That's what I think on that story.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Shit.
Well, guys, I
hope
we scared you.
I have one more.
Oh my gosh,
do.
Let's do it. All right, thank you, Sabrina.
Yeah, this one I saved the best for last. It is kind of a well-known story, but it just scared the crap out of me. This story takes place in rural Vermont. A husband and a wife live in a small town off of a dirt road, kind of the middle of nowhere, right? It's off of the main road, so you gotta know where you're going to get there.
You don't just stumble across this place.
And it's the middle of winter. It's 2 a.m. There's a snowstorm going on, right? And the woman, she woke up to a loud banging at her front door. She looked out the window and she could see that there were footprints in the snow, and her motion detector light was on the front porch. But there were no tracks from a car or anything, so she's like, oh no, did somebody maybe get into an accident and they're walking, because it's happened before, right? So she could see someone standing at the front door. So she woke her husband up, like any smart wife would do.
Right.
She said, you know, hey, you want to go check it out?
Right? Like, there's knocking. I need
too scared
you
to go
to be the man and do this for me now.
Mine would say no. He wouldn't do it. He went up to the front door to answer it, and she was standing in the hallway. Because she's like, no, I'm scared.
Yeah.
When he opened the door, there were 2 children standing in the snow looking towards the ground. There were a boy and a girl. Couldn't have been more than 8 years old. They were dressed strangely with odd haircuts. So, like, very outdated, right? She was like, oh, you know, they're not dressed for winter. And she described the clothing as, like, almost Mennonite.
Okay.
Yeah, so, like, very basic, simple, you know, outdated for sure.
Outdated clothing.
Yeah, but they weren't aware of any, like, Mennonite communities near the area.
Yeah.
It's possible, but she just had a very uneasy feeling, and the children would not make eye contact when her husband asked them if everything was okay. They just asked if they could come in. The woman asked where their parents were, and they replied, they'll be here soon. She went against her instincts, and she let the children inside the house.
Oh, no, girl.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. She felt very uneasy. She went into the kitchen to, like, make them some hot chocolate, and she could hear her husband talking to the kids in the other room, and he just kept asking them, like, are you guys okay? Where are your parents? You know, trying to get something out of them. And they just kept replying, they'll be here soon. Yeah, they just kept saying, our parents will be here soon, and they spoke in almost like a sing-songy voice.
Interesting.
Terrifying. So scary to me.
Like, can we come in?
Yeah. So scary. So the woman noticed that 3 of their 4 cats were hiding. And this was, like, super unusual behavior for them because they're like my cat. Like, she'll run up to you when you come through the front door, you know,
not like
check
mine.
You out a little bit. And that's how these cats were. They were scared that sometimes the cats would run out of the front door. That's how, you know, friendly they were, but they were hiding. Her other cat, Pigeon. He was, I know, he was with her in the kitchen, and all of the hair on Pigeon's neck was just standing straight up. His tail was puffed out, and he was just staring into the living room where these little kids were sitting. Yeah. And this was, like, also terribly off behavior for him. Like, he was just like my cat. He was so nice, and, you know, she had never seen this behavior from him ever. And he started hissing, growling, and then he backed himself into the corner when she tried to pet him.
That's very strange, especially for the pet owner. The cats don't usually hide from you.
Yeah, ever, right? So she walked back to the living room and noticed that her husband was now holding his head in his hands. And she's like, babe, you good? Like, are you okay, right? And he said that he suddenly felt very, very dizzy. She looked back at the children and she gasped because now she noticed that their eyes were completely black, no whites, just giant black pupils, she described it.
Too late, they're in your house.
Yeah. Yep.
Too late. You should notice this a long time ago.
No, she said it took everything in her not to, like, drop the hot chocolate mugs that she had because she was so terrified. Well, you know, they picked up on that. They're like, oh, she's scared now. Can we use your bathroom? They just asked to use the bathroom. So she tells them where it is. She's like, yep, down the hall. When the children left the room, she hurriedly asked her husband, like, did you notice their eyes that were all black? And he's like, yeah, I noticed their eyes were all black. And then he said he had seen him too. And then while in the middle of their conversation, her husband's nose just starts to bleed.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, this is, like, not a normal thing for him. He doesn't suffer from nosebleeds or anything. She turned to get him some tissues, and then suddenly everything went all black. The freaking power went out.
Of course. Oh my gosh.
The freaking power goes out.
That's when I get chills.
And she looks over at the end of the hallway, and the 2 children are just standing there, staring at them. And then she goes, the girls go, our parents are here.
What? Yeah. Where are they?
I don't know. But they're here. So they're like, the fuck?
Yeah.
Right? And then without another word, these kids just start booking it for the door. They walk out the front door. They're like, what the heck? So they walk over there to see where they're going. And there's an all-black car just idling there at the end of their dirt driveway. And 2 men in suits are just standing there, all-black suits.
Oh, my gosh.
Let him in the car, get in the car, and then drive away. Yeah. That's terrifying.
Okay.
And that makes me think Men in Black, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So over the next few months, 3 of the cats went missing.
Oh.
Never showed up again. They don't know if they don't know what happened,
Yeah.
right? And then one day they came home and they found Pigeon in the middle of the living room in a puddle of his own blood.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so he passed away. And after her husband's nosebleeds became like a regular occurrence, they went to the doctor and he was actually diagnosed with skin cancer, developing at such a rate that even the doctors were baffled. They were like, have you used an indoor tanning bed every day for your entire life? Like, that's how bad it was. And he's like, no, I don't even go outside. Like, I prefer not to, you know?
Yeah.
He stays inside for most of his everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
So they were just all super, super confused. And then the woman, she also developed some health issues. She didn't say what they were. She did get nosebleeds and she suffered from dizzy spells as well. But she didn't really say what else. She basically wrote this story and published it out there as a warning not to let these children in.
Oh my gosh.
Because now they have all these health issues.
So how long after the kids visited that?
A few months.
That the cats passed,
Yeah.
and then he
So it was
went
like,
to the doctor, and
yeah, it was like rapidly.
everything after that night.
Yeah. Just
oh my
boom,
gosh.
boom, boom, yeah.
That's so creepy.
Yeah.
That tells me like vampires or
Sorry,
something.
but like their parents are here? What is that?
And they didn't even see parents. They just saw two men.
Exactly.
Or
well,
they could have been men.
They could have been, you know. But I don't know. Yeah.
But, and as you said before, like, they can't just stumble onto this house.
I don't think that when they said our parents are here, they were talking about the men outside of the house.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's, like, something inside of the house now.
Yeah. Oh, my parents are here.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And that's why the power went out.
Girl, I love that
Yeah.
so much. That
I
is
think
so
they meant,
trippy.
like, this is now the Conjuring or something, you know?
Like, we brought the bad spirits. We
Yeah.
can leave now.
We did our due diligence, and now we gotta bounce and on to the next one. Our little chauffeurs outside are about to take us to your neighbor's house or something, you know?
That's hella creepy.
Isn't
That's
that so
hella
terrifying?
creepy.
I saved that one for last because it was so scary.
Yeah.
I almost cried when I was reading it.
That is hella creepy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ah.
All right.
Okay, so let's go back to the theories.
Yeah.
Vampire, you're thinking?
I'm definitely thinking some sort of vampire.
Yeah.
Like, I think
Emotional vampires, if anything.
that's what
too.
I'm saying.
Yeah,
Because, like, everybody has the same, as soon as they see these kids, before they even notice that they have black eyes, they immediately get that sense of dread and fear.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing that sinks in.
Exactly.
And then they notice the eyes, and then everything kind of seems to progress a little more, like,
yeah. Well,
aggressively.
And then they're like also compelling people because a lot of these stories they don't want to. Okay, so for example, your first story, Brian was his name.
Brian,
When
yeah.
he was filling out the check paperwork, he actually reached for the door handle to open it.
Yeah.
So he was like, and he was like, I don't know why I did that. I was not even gonna let them in, and I felt like I was compelled to reach for the handle.
Just
and then
like,
he snapped out of it, luckily.
yeah.
But-
just like everybody wanting to open the door.
Yeah.
And that's like the
I don't
last
open
one
the door
I read.
for anybody unless you
Yeah.
let me know you're coming over.
Yeah, and that's how the last story I read on Noetic, when they were at his place of business, you know, he was going towards the door and then looks at them and decides not to open it. So
That
it's
is
like,
so scary.
you know, and then has to threaten them before they even said, that won't be necessary.
Yeah.
Just need to use your phone.
Well, I think aliens.
Aliens,
I don't know,
yeah.
or something, some kind of like the Men in Black throws me off
Mm-hmm.
because that makes me think something extraterrestrial or
Yeah.
what if like I don't know an alien abducted a woman and then got her pregnant and then they gave birth to the black-eyed children
Oh my
or something, you
gosh.
know? That's what I think.
Yeah, and the fact that they do just disappear and they don't talk like normal kids
Yeah.
would talk,
Well, and
that
then
would make
in
sense.
some of the accounts too, which is like happened within the last 20 years, they're asking to come in and use your telegraph.
Yeah, telegraph.
If I said to my younger
Yeah.
sister, do you know what a telegraph is? She wouldn't even know what to tell me.
No. They're like, I don't know, the mail? Like,
Yeah,
not exactly.
she would not even know what to tell me.
No, I think I read that a couple stories
Yeah.
where they said, may I use your
Or a
telegraph?
landline.
Yeah.
Everybody has a cell phone now.
And-
I'll chuck my cell phone out
Uh-huh.
the door and you can use it out there. You don't need to come into my
Yeah,
house.
yeah. There was one that I read. Actually, there was at least 2 that I read that it happened during Halloween.
A lot of them seem to
But
happen.
all
around
of them
that time.
happen like after trick or treaters have gone home
Yeah.
for a few hours, and
Yep.
now their parents are just sitting up chilling, get a knock on the door at 1, 2 a.m.
And they're just not expecting it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, wait, maybe it's some late night trick-or-treaters.
Uh-huh.
Wouldn't you hit it up right when, peak season, peak hours?
Peak hours? You want the big candy bars, right?
Be like, if I was a BEK, I would hit your door at 9 p.m. and then say I had to use the bathroom. I don't know.
Yeah, they would happen like at night, random hours, and
or 2 a.m. was this one. Like the middle of a snowstorm, and you're not even gonna put a jacket on. Like, who is your dispatcher? Who is sending you to these jobs? To these jobs,
black-eyed children. You need to have somebody help you.
Yeah, you don't talk right. You don't wear the right clothes.
But that's like the one thing that all of them have said is they don't seem like today's kids.
Yeah,
everything is completely
probably for
out
the
of
better.
Whack.
Probably for the better. Another thing I wanted to mention was that supposedly the kids are more likely to approach people who already know about them.
I came across that
I'm so sorry to everyone listening to this episode if you didn't already know about them.
Serena.
You do now. But now you know what to do. Do not let them in. And also, there was another story I read where he was in like a carport at night, and he was going to like a meeting or something, right? And the two children come up and they're like, oh, we need a ride. And he's like, well, like I'm going in there for a couple hours. If you're still out here when I come out, sure, right?
Nice guy.
He comes out and then they're still there hours later in the middle of the night. And he's like, well, I don't really want to give him a ride, like. Yeah. And so he just leaves, and then he like got into a car accident right then.
Creepy.
Yeah, and died.
Weird, and that's such weird coincidences that he got into a car accident after saying he was going to help them.
And then he went back on his promise, I guess. Exactly. So then that makes me think vampire as well. Like, I don't know.
See?
Broken promises. Like, so don't offer them help if
How about just don't let strange people into your home, period?
Or your car, just don't do that.
Or your car. I don't know, I'm still
You can
on
say,
vampires.
like, oh, I can call them for you, I guess. If you really want to help. Like, I'll call them for you.
And I've seen some where, like, they'll ask the kids, like, you don't have a cell phone? And then they get confused.
What's a cell phone?
Yeah, no, there was one that I read, and the woman was like, don't you have a cell phone? Don't you have your cell phone on you? It's late. And the child went totally silent, looked at the other kid, like, looking at each other, and then looks back at the person saying, the battery has died. Can we use your landline? And
I read that story too. Yeah. The way he said it, it was like, it's dead of charge or something.
Yeah,
he said it like in a weird way.
It was like the battery wasn't charged or something like that. So they had to look at each other, and that's when she's like, they're trying to figure out what to do from here.
Communicating telepathically.
They're trying to figure out what to do from here. Yeah. Like, oh, this person said, no, I can't get into their car. So then they immediately say, oh, I don't have a gun, sir. You could trust us.
Yeah.
Or the battery died on my cell phone. Like, they're trying to figure it out before they really get shut down and they're not allowed into the home or car.
Yeah.
So
a lot of the theories, vampires definitely up there. Extraterrestrial alien, that's up there.
I'm sorry, I'm going with
team vampire?
With vampire, yeah.
I'm team aliens.
I'm going with vampires, and just, it seems more like that to me, but I'm not letting any random kid into my house. I think I'm just not happening. Sorry.
Don't.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm not that good of a person.
I'm a bad person. I'll take that.
I don't know. I'll call the cops for you.
I'll call the cops for you. Right. They went that away.
Yeah.
Well,
I just wonder if you were to, like, pull out your phone and, like, try to take a picture.
See, and that's the thing.
Because that was my thought when, like, the guy was in the car. Mm-hmm. My first thing would be, like, to pull it out and start recording in case you did have a gun. Yeah. Or, something else.
And it's also, like, well, that was in 1998, so he wasn't going to pull out his phone and start recording. True. But there's, like, the one in Staffordshire, how they're saying that they got some drone footage. But I couldn't find any.
Dash cam. Get a dash cam.
There you go.
Going forward.
Going forward, always
if not for accidents, for the BEK.
You never know.
That's scary.
So creepy.
Yeah, I really hope that I never encounter this.
Because it does happen to people who know that they're around or know of the stories and legends. So you're welcome, everybody.
The balcony one freaks me out, I think, the most because I have a balcony and it's right outside my bedroom door.
See, and I feel like, because I don't use the front door to my apartment, I use the back door. So if I get somebody knocking on my front door, I know they're not supposed to be there.
That's already a red flag.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
We're all thinking of ways how we know not
know,
to let
right?
them in.
All right, well, that's it, I think, for this episode.
Yeah, that was fun, Serena. Thank you.
Yes,
it was creepy as hell, and I'm glad we did it, and yeah.
Happy Friday the 13th.
Happy Friday the 13th. Yes. So we are going to do 2 episodes for Friday the 13th.
Yeah, so go listen to our next one.
Listen to the next episode. It's about possessions.
Yes. Sorry, let's drop the soch. Where can you find us?
You can find us at... we have Weird Mythic Podcast, all one word, on Instagram, and we are also at facebook.com/weirdmythic.
And then come hang out with me on Twitter, guys.
Yeah.
It's at Weird Mythic.
Woo! And we also have our email address. Please send us any suggestions of, creepy stuff, your own personal stories.
Please, please, please. I want sleep paralysis stories so bad, you guys. Please.
Sleep paralysis. Please send those stories to weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, I'm not above begging for it.
I'm not above begging. Please, please, please.
All right, well, thanks, guys, for listening. Have a good Friday the 13th.
Woohoo!
Okay.